So in this video today, we're going to be talking about what are the biggest positions that Warren Buffett currently has in the stock market. So a little over a week ago, I did a video talking about Buffett surprising the world by selling out of the airline industry entirely. And one of the most common questions I was getting from people on that video were, number one, what is Warren Buffett doing with his money currently? And number two, what stocks does Warren Buffett currently own? So we're going to cover all of that in this video today. Now, to answer the first question of what is Warren Buffett currently doing with his money, well, he is not investing it in any stocks right now. Pretty much the only thing we are seeing him doing with his massive cash pile is investing in US Treasury bonds, which is essentially a way to make some small rate of return on the cash that you have sitting on the sidelines. And speaking of that cash pile, Warren Buffett now has a record high cash pile through his holdings company known as Berkshire Hathaway. And Berkshire Hathaway now has an all-time high cash pile of $137.2 billion. And just to put that into perspective here, guys, that is enough money to buy the entire company of Nike, with enough left over to buy Kroger, the national grocery store chain. So he could literally gobble up so many different companies right now if he wanted to, based on the amount of cash he has on the sidelines. And essentially, Warren Buffett has said that right now, he just sees too much uncertainty in the market and he doesn't see any deals to be had at this current point in time. So that is why he is hoarding his cash pile. He even sold out of airlines and built his cash pile even further. And the only thing he's doing right now is pretty much directing money into US Treasuries as a way to protect his buying power. But that being said, what are the stocks that Warren Buffett currently owns and sees value in? That's what we're going to answer right now. But before we get into that, guys, I just have a quick message here from today's video sponsor, which is Trade Coffee. With Trade, you can discover new coffees from the nation's top roasters because Trade matches you to your own personal selection of coffee and conveniently delivers it to you. They sent me 2 complimentary coffees to try out at home. I was a little bit skeptical at first, but I honestly have to say this is some of the best coffee I have ever personally had. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it was just recently roasted and ground, whereas store-bought coffee from the grocery store is not nearly as fresh. Now, it's really cool how it works because you don't have to be a coffee expert in order to find a good roast. You just jump on their website, take a quiz, and you tell Trade, how do you like your coffee? And they will curate matches just for you. And then they're going to mail it right to your door. You just have to choose your delivery frequency, how often you want new coffee, and they will automatically send it to your door so you don't even have to think about it. And then you simply rate the coffees that you receive, and based on that information, Trade is going to send you different coffees and over time discover what your perfect matches are. Now, Trade is offering an exclusive discount for my audience. You can get 30% off your first bag, but it's for the first 100 people only. That's going to be the top link down in the description below if you guys want to check that out. And based on my experience with Trade, I would highly recommend it. So thanks so much for checking that out, guys. If you want to find out more about Trade yourself, there's a link down in the description below. And also, guys, this video is going to be mid-roll ad free since I had a sponsorship within the video. All right, so first of all, Warren Buffett's largest position right now in terms of the stocks that he owns is one that actually deviates from his original investing strategy because his largest stock position is currently in Apple. Warren Buffett owns around 250 million shares of Apple that are worth around $77 billion. This is the largest holding he has in stocks, and he currently owns about 5.7% of Apple's entire company through his stock ownership. Now, in the past, Warren Buffett was not one to invest in technology companies. He did own IBM and some other tech companies for a period of time, but it was not something that he focused on with his investing strategy, but he deviated away from that in a major way with his purchase of Apple stock. And here's what he has had to say on this investment. In an interview when talking about the company Apple, Warren Buffett said, "It is probably the best business that I know in the world." So he speaks very highly of Apple and he really likes the brand behind this company. He also said that he wished that he had purchased the stock earlier on, back when he was more stubborn about investing in these technology companies. And one surprising detail here as well, even after years of sticking to his flip phone, he finally decided to get an iPhone, again showing his dedication and interest in this company. So Apple is of course a very high quality company to invest in with a very strong brand, and this is Warren Buffett's largest stock investment. So Bank of America is his second largest position, and he owns just about 1 billion shares worth around $22 billion today. And that means that Berkshire Hathaway owns 10.9% of Bank of America. Now, Warren Buffett does own numerous different stocks in the banking industry and other financial industries, but this is of course his largest position in the big banks. And this came from a large investment that Warren Buffett made in Bank of America back in 2011 after the financial crisis. He invested a massive amount of money into Bank of America stock. Essentially, overnight, Warren Buffett invested $5 billion into Bank of America in a very wild move here, essentially buying into the banks when everyone else was selling them like crazy due to the massive uncertainty. And according to an interview with the Bank of America CEO, he said that Buffett was in a great position because he had a lot of cash while others didn't, and this allowed him to scoop up this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And essentially, people wonder why Warren Buffett sits on such a large amount of cash. That is because in the past, he goes in very quick and will direct a lot of money into a company when he sees value. And if there's one time that you want to have money on the sidelines, it is during a recession when deals like this pop up. Coming in at number 3 here is Coca-Cola, which is one of Buffett's most well-known investments. Buffett owns an even 400 million shares of KO, which is roughly an $18 billion stake, giving him 9.3% ownership of Coca-Cola. And again, this is very consistent with Buffett's strategy of investing in well-known and quality brands, since he owns Apple as well as Coca-Cola in his top 3 positions, both of which are arguably the most well-known brands in the world. Back in 1988, Buffett bought more than $1 billion worth of Coca-Cola stock, giving him at the time a 6.2% ownership stake in the company, and over time he has added more shares to his portfolio, but he is a long-time investor in this diversified beverage company. Now, he timed this investment in Coca-Cola after the stock market crash of 1987 because he saw this as a quality company to invest in that was dragged down by the overall market. And again, this is something typical of Warren Buffett, which is investing large sums of money into the market during times of uncertainty like a recession or a stock market crash. And one surprising fact here about Warren Buffett, which is honestly a little bit concerning, is that at 89 years old, he is known for drinking 5 cans of cherry Coke every single day, full sugar Coca-Cola, and that makes up about 1/4 of his daily calorie intake in sugary soda. Seems like a bad thing to do health-wise, but he's still kicking, so maybe he knows something that we don't. Alright, so coming in at number 4 is another one of his well-known investments, and that is American Express. And this investment dates all the way back to the 1960s. So Buffett owns about 151 million shares of American Express with a combined value of around $13.5 billion, giving him an ownership stake in American Express of about 18.8%. Now, Warren Buffett began investing in American Express back in 1964 when they were involved in a large scandal. Now, at that time, Buffett's strategy was not what it is today, and he was known for investing in kind of crappy companies at very deep discounts. And at that point in his career, he met another well-known investor known as Charlie Munger. Now, Charlie Munger convinced Warren Buffett that he was in fact better off investing in great companies at fair prices rather than investing in these crappy companies at these massive discounts. And this changed Warren Buffett's investing strategies from that point forward. And American Express is an example of him deploying this strategy of buying a great company at a fair price due to a very rare event or circumstance that occurred. So at the time, American Express was involved in a massive scandal that dealt a huge blow to this company and caused the stock to go into a massive sell-off. Essentially, a commodities trader was dealing in vegetable oil futures and had massive inventories of oil, and he was using that vegetable oil to secure a loan. Essentially, the vegetable oil backed that loan as collateral. Well, it was eventually found out that those barrels in fact held mostly water and were essentially worthless, and American Express was backing those loans, and essentially they lost tons of money because the asset backing those loans was water and utterly worthless. So American Express saw some substantial losses as a result of that scandal, and Warren Buffett saw it as a short-term bad event for this company and decided to begin investing. Alright guys, so fifth and finally, Warren Buffett's fifth largest investment is actually not one of his best investments. In fact, it's one that has not done very well, and that is his investment in Kraft Heinz. So Warren Buffett owns 325 million shares of Kraft Heinz worth a combined $9.6 billion, giving him roughly 26.7% ownership of this company. Now, Kraft Heinz has actually been doing pretty lousy over the last couple of years, and this is largely due to changes in consumer tastes and products that we are buying. You see, Kraft Heinz owns a lot of these brands that were popular with older generations that are not really sticking with the new generation. So as a result, their sales are falling and that stock has tumbled. And during an interview with CNBC, Warren Buffett said, "I made a mistake in the Kraft purchase in terms of paying too much." So he admits this was not his best investment and it has lost him money in the long run. So essentially, back in 2013, Berkshire Hathaway and 3G Capital bought Heinz for a $23 billion deal, and 2 years later there was a merger with Kraft where this company essentially became the Kraft Heinz that we know today. And again, this is consistent with Buffett's investing strategy of investing in well-known brands, because we now know he owns Apple, Coca-Cola, as well as American Express, which is pretty well known, and the Heinz brand. He just unfortunately picked a brand that was falling out of favor with consumers. Now, beyond his 5 largest stock positions, Warren Buffett also owns a lot of different companies, and I want to go over a list now from largest to smallest of the other companies that Warren Buffett owns that are positions of $1 billion or more, making them a substantial part of Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio. And this is according to the CNBC Berkshire Hathaway portfolio tracker that keeps track of Warren Buffett / Berkshire Hathaway's investments, and I will link that up down in the description below. Okay, so his next largest position here is Wells Fargo. After that, it is Moody's, the credit rating agency. After that, we have JP Morgan Chase. After that, we have US Bank Corp, followed by Bank of New York Mellon. So a lot of bank stocks here in Warren Buffett's portfolio. Next up, we have DaVita, followed by Charter Communications, followed by VeriSign. Next up, we have Goldman Sachs, followed by Visa. Next, General Motors, MasterCard, then we have Costco. Then a surprising one for many, we have Amazon, followed by PNC, and finally Liberty Sirius XM. So based on these stocks that Warren Buffett owns, here's what we can gather about Warren Buffett's investing strategy. First of all, above all else, I think we know that Warren Buffett likes to invest in companies with a well-known and reputable brand, which is the case here with Kraft Heinz, as well as Coca-Cola, Apple, and a number of his other investments here. That's a very big thing he looks at when investing in a company. Buffett doesn't invest in technology companies for the most part, Apple being the only real deviation there. Amazon is also a tech company, but mostly involved in e-commerce, but you don't see a lot of tech names in Warren Buffett's portfolio. Warren Buffett is a big fan of the financial sector, and he owns a lot of companies involved in banking as well as payment processing. He also invests in consumer staples with companies like Kraft Heinz and a few others on his list. Warren Buffett also takes advantage of market pessimism and often invests substantial amounts of money during stock market recessions and other times of uncertainty. And lastly, we can see that Warren Buffett buys great companies at fair prices, again, really focusing on the overall quality of that investment, not so much whether or not he is getting a bargain of a lifetime. So anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you drop a like and leave me a comment down below. And the last thing I want to say here, guys, is the fact that Warren Buffett owns these stocks does not necessarily mean they are a good deal right now. As you can see, some of these stock purchases are dating back to the 1960s. So Warren Buffett is known for taking advantage of opportunities that arise in the market. But it does give you a good idea of what he's doing with his money and what are his largest positions currently. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.